Rajesh charger. So another security concern is information assurance and data ownership. As we discussed, the confidentiality, integrity and availability of data is the major objective of information security. So in case of a cloud environment, your data is hosted by cloud service provider, your application is hosted by cloud service provider. So the cloud service provider has access to data, but the owner is not the cloud service provider. The organization is the owner. So how to make sure that your data is accessed only by the authorized user and ensuring that the confidentiality is maintained. So the data also should be protected by unauthorized use through encryption. So this becomes one of the major concerns in cloud environment. As in data confidentiality, privacy is also another concern. So how do you make sure that the privacy of data is ensured in a cloud environment, because multiple enterprises and multiple users might be using the same infrastructure and might have access to your data. So it is important to make sure that the privacy of the data is maintained. Now those were the security concerns, but what are the actual security threats in case of a cloud environment? So VM theft and VM escape and hyperjacking, we will cover all these in our next slides. Data leakage is another concern, and denial of service attack is also another major concern in a cloud environment. VM theft is a vulnerability which enables the attacker to copy a virtual machine and use it for attacking the rest of the infrastructure. So if your virtual machine is nothing but a file, so your virtual machine is saved as a file in a virtual environment. So if a file doesn't have proper access privileges, an authorized user can copy your virtual machine file and use it for attacking. So hyperjacking enables a attacker to install a rogue hypervisor or a virtual machine monitor that can take control of the underlying server resources. So hypervisor is a component which virtualizes the server, which enables the virtualization of a server into different virtual machines. So rogue hypervisor itself is installed, it can take control of your entire infrastructure. So the regular security measures are ineffective in case of hyperjacking. So hardware assisted secure launching of hypervisor is one of the mechanisms using which hyperjacking can be avoided. Also scanning hardware level details to assess the integrity of the hypervisor, making sure that it's not a malicious hypervisor which is installed by an attacker, but the actual hypervisor which has been used, which has been there, to make sure that the hardware integrity is maintained. By making sure that hardware integrity is maintained, you can avoid the hyperjacking problem. Data leakage is a common concern in a traditional IT environment. In case of cloud, it becomes more of a concern because of again problems which we explained earlier, like multi-tenancy, etc. So also there is a concept called side channel attack, where data leakage can be done by a VM which is hosted in the same server can try to get access of the data from another VM. Maybe the VMs might have common shared memory, or the cache data, or the logs which have been written in a particular location. So if a user of a particular virtual machine gets access to the data of another user through the common logs or through cache data, there is a possibility of data leakage. So your confidential data which is there in the cache or which is there in the common memory location or shared memory, if it gets accessed by another user, this might lead to data leakage. So denial of service attack is very common in any of hosted application or service. So you can see, you might have observed that suddenly Yahoo server has come down, so users are not able to access access their emails. So in case of cloud, the denial of service attack becomes more complicated because the enterprise doesn't have access to the cloud infrastructure. So cloud service provider has to make sure that all the services and all the resources are available to the user. For example, a particular virtual machine starts using lot of storage and lot of memory, other virtual machine will not get its required memory or storage. So one way to avoid this is to limit the resource allocation. So make sure that you have a control where a virtual machine can use only this much of memory or this much of storage, so that that virtual machine cannot use all the resources and have a denial of service attack on other users. So now we have explained what are the concerns and what are the threats and how a cloud infrastructure can be attacked. So now what are the security mechanisms available to make sure that your cloud infrastructure is secure? So compute and network level security. So in a virtual environment, your compute and your network and your storage all are virtualized. So at that level, how do you ensure that security is maintained? And secure data at rest. So how the data which is stored in a remote location in a server is secured. And identity and access management. This will take care of how unauthorized use of data can be avoided. And risk analysis and compliance. So at compute level, you have to secure the physical server, which is part of physical security, and also hypervisor has to be secured so that hyperjacking is avoided, and each VM has to be secure because if one VM has been compromised, it can act as